The signal from the void, the monitoring station orbiting Neptune detected it first. A signal that should not exist, coming from a direction where nothing should be. Dr. Marcus Webb sat frozen at his console, watching the data stream across his screen. The frequency patterns matched Earth technology, but the signature was over a century and a half old. His coffee grew cold as he ran the analysis for the 5th time, hoping he was wrong. He wasn't. The signal belonged to the UES Horizon, humanity's first colony ship that had vanished without a trace 153 years ago. 20,000 souls had departed Earth aboard that vessel, heading for the Proxima Centauri system. They had transmitted regular updates for 3 years, then nothing. Space had swallowed them whole, leaving behind only questions and grief for the families who waited. Marcus reached for the emergency communication panel with trembling fingers. Within minutes, his discovery had reached the highest levels of Earth's united government. The impossible had happened. The Horizon was coming home. Director Elena Reeves stood in the command center of Luna Station, Earth's primary defense installation. Around her, dozens of technicians worked furiously to verify what their instruments were telling them. The massive view screen displayed a blinking dot, moving steadily through the outer solar system. The dot that represented a ghost ship carrying answers to questions humanity had stopped asking decades ago. Colonel James Park approached her with a tablet in hand. His weathered face showed the strain of processing the impossible data. The ship's energy signature matches our historical records perfectly, Director. Every scan confirms it. The Horizon is real, intact and approaching at sublight speeds. But there's something else you need to see. Elena took the tablet and studied the readings. Her breath caught in her throat. The life sign detectors were going haywire, showing numbers that made no sense. The Horizon had left with 20,000 colonists. The scans now showed over 20 million distinct human signatures aboard a ship that couldn't possibly hold a tenth of that number. Park nodded grimly at her expression. The ship hasn't been modified or expanded. It's the exact same size as when it left. The hull shows no signs of damage or aging. It looks like it left yesterday, not a century and a half ago. Whatever happened to them out there, the normal rules don't seem to apply anymore. Elena made her decision quickly. She had risen to her position by acting decisively when others hesitated. We need to make contact. Prepare a diplomatic vessel with a small crew. Include our best scientists, a medical team, and a security detail. I'll lead the mission personally. The colonel started to protest, but Elena cut him off with a gesture. Those are our people out there, or they were once. We owe them the respect of meeting them ourselves, not sending drones or subordinates. Besides, if they've been changed by something out there, we need to understand what we're dealing with before they reach Earth. 3 days later, Elena's ship, the Artemis, matched velocity with the Horizon at the edge of the asteroid belt. Up close, the colony ship looked exactly as it had in the historical archives. Its rotating ring spun lazily, generating artificial gravity. Its hull gleamed silver in the distant sunlight. Windows glowed with warm light, suggesting life and activity within. Dr. Sarah Kim, the mission's lead physicist, stared at her instruments in bewilderment. Director, the space around the Horizon is behaving strangely. It's as if the ship exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The interior volume readings are impossible. According to these scans, the inside of that ship is larger than the entire Earth. Elena studied the readouts, though the mathematics involved were beyond her understanding. She trusted her team to interpret the data. What about communications? Any response to our signals? Lieutenant David Torres, the communications officer, shook his head in frustration. We've tried everything. Radio, laser, quantum entanglement communicators. They're receiving our signals, but they're not responding with technology. Wait, something's happening. The view screen shimmered, and suddenly a figure appeared on their bridge, not through the screen, but standing physically in their space as if they had always been there. It was a woman who appeared to be in her 30s, with features that seemed both completely human and somehow more. Her eyes held depths that seemed to contain entire galaxies. The woman smiled warmly, and when she spoke, her voice resonated with harmonics that touched something deep in their minds. Welcome, children of Earth. I am Navigator Prime Chen, though I was once simply Liu Chen of Beijing. We have traveled far and seen much. We have returned to share what we have learned, to offer humanity its next great adventure. Elena found her voice first, pushing past the impossibility of someone appearing from nowhere. Navigator Chen, I am Director Elena Reeves of Earth's Unity Government. Your ship has been missing for over a century and a half. Where have you been? What happened to the original mission? Chen's expression became thoughtful, as if trying to translate concepts that had no words. We reached our destination, Director. But Proxima Centauri was not empty as we believed. We found something there. Something that had been waiting for a species like humanity to find it. Beings of pure consciousness who exist between the folds of space and time. They offered us a choice, and we chose to evolve. Dr. Kim stepped forward, scanner in hand. Evolve how? Our instruments show impossible readings from your ship. The interior space doesn't match the exterior dimensions. You have millions of life signs where thousands should be. Chen nodded approvingly at the questions. You see the contradictions because you still think in 3 dimensions, still believe time flows in only one direction. We have learned to perceive reality as it truly is, not as our limited human senses once showed us. The ship contains exactly as much space as we need it to contain. Time moves as we direct it to move. The 20,000 who left Earth have lived dozens of generations in the spaces between moments. Colonel Park's hand moved instinctively toward his sidearm, though he didn't draw it. Are you still human? Are you a threat to Earth? Chen's expression became sad but understanding. We are more human than ever, Colonel. We have not lost what we were. We have added to it. We can still love, still hope, still dream, but now we can also touch minds across vast distances, fold space with our thoughts and see the connections that bind all living things. We are not a threat to Earth. We are Earth's future, if humanity chooses to accept it. Elena felt a strange pull, a curiosity that seemed to come from deep within. What exactly are you offering us? Chen extended her hand, and Elena saw that it seemed to shimmer slightly, as if existing in multiple states simultaneously. Understanding, evolution, freedom from the constraints that limit human potential. The beings we encountered, the architects they call themselves, have shepherded countless species through this transformation. They wait in the spaces between stars, helping young civilizations take their next step. Dr. Kim's scanner suddenly beeped urgently. Director, I'm detecting changes in our local space-time. The horizon's presence is affecting reality around us. We're beginning to experience temporal fluctuations. I'm reading chronometer discrepancies throughout the ship. Chen nodded as if she had expected this. Your presence here, your proximity to us has already begun your transformation. You cannot be near evolved humans without beginning to evolve yourselves. It is gentle, natural, like a flower opening to sunlight. Do not fear it. Lieutenant Torres gasped and pointed at his console. Director, look at the communication array. I'm receiving signals, but not through our equipment. They're appearing directly in my mind. I can hear them. Thousands of them all talking at once, but somehow I understand every word. Elena felt it too. A soft pressure at the edges of her consciousness, like whispers just beyond hearing. It was terrifying and exhilarating simultaneously. She forced herself to focus on her duty. Navigator Chen, Earth needs time to understand this. We can't simply accept such a fundamental change without careful consideration. Chen's smile was patient and knowing. Time you shall have, Director. We will remain here at the edge of your system, broadcasting our story to any who wish to hear it. But understand that the choice has already been made. The architects have deemed humanity ready. The transformation will come whether Earth embraces it or resists. The only question is whether humanity will step forward with courage or be dragged forward by necessity. The figure of Chen began to fade, becoming translucent. Before she disappeared entirely, she spoke once more. You will return to Earth with questions. Some will fear what we represent. Others will embrace it. But all will eventually understand that this is not an ending, but a beginning. Humanity's childhood is over. It is time to join the greater community of evolved intelligences that span the galaxy. As Chen vanished, Elena and her crew stood in stunned silence. The readings from the horizon continued to defy everything they thought they knew about physics and reality. But more troubling were the subtle changes they could feel beginning within themselves. Torres was still hearing mental communications. Dr. Kim's equations were suddenly making sense in ways they never had before. Even Colonel Park seemed to be perceiving threats and strategies in dimensions he couldn't quite describe. Elena made the only decision she could. They would return to Earth and report what they had found. Humanity would have to grapple with its future, whether it was ready or not. The lost ship had returned, but it had brought with it questions that would challenge the very definition of what it meant to be human. As the Artemis began its journey back to Earth, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that Navigator Chen had been right about one thing. The choice had already been made. They just didn't know it yet. The gift of Transcendence Earth received Elena's report with a mixture of wonder, fear, and denial. The images of the horizon, impossibly intact after its century-and-a-half journey, played on every screen across the planet. The testimony of the Artemis crew, describing their encounter with Navigator Chen and the impossible physics they had witnessed, sparked debates in every corner of human civilization. President Marcus Thompson stood before the United Earth Assembly, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's most crucial decision. The choice before us is unlike any our species has faced. Do we embrace this evolution, this transformation into something beyond our current understanding? Or do we resist, potentially condemning ourselves to stagnation while the universe moves forward without us? Dr. Kim had been working tirelessly since their return, trying to understand the science behind what they had witnessed. She stood before the Assembly's Science Committee, presenting findings that challenged everything they thought they knew. The mathematics are clear, even if they're difficult to accept. The horizon exists in a state of quantum superposition, occupying multiple dimensional states simultaneously. The beings aboard have learned to manipulate fundamental forces we're only beginning to theorize about. The committee members looked skeptical. Senator Rita Martinez leaned forward, her voice sharp with concern. Dr. Kim, you're asking us to believe that 20,000 humans have become something that defies the laws of physics. How do we know this isn't some elaborate deception? Perhaps these aren't our people at all, but something that has taken their form? Kim pulled up a holographic display showing DNA analyses and quantum signatures. Every test we can perform confirms these are the original colonists and their descendants. The DNA matches our records perfectly, though it shows signs of controlled evolution. They haven't been replaced. They've been enhanced. The question isn't whether they're human, but whether we're ready to join them in their expanded definition of humanity. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Torres had become something of a phenomenon himself. Since returning from the encounter, he had developed the ability to hear thoughts not just from the horizon but from people around him. He sat in a secured medical facility, while doctors and scientists studied his transformation. Dr. Michael Ito, Earth's leading neurobiologist, examined the brain scans with amazement. Your neural pathways are restructuring themselves. New connections are forming at an unprecedented rate. You're developing sensory capabilities that shouldn't be possible with human biology as we understand it. Torres nodded, his eyes reflecting a depth of understanding that hadn't been there before. I can feel it happening, Doctor. It's not frightening once you accept it. It's like I've been seeing the world through a keyhole my entire life, and now the door is opening. I can sense the connections between all living things, the energy that flows through everything. Word of Torres's abilities spread despite attempts to keep them classified. Some saw him as proof of humanity's divine destiny. Others viewed him as contaminated, dangerous, no longer truly human. Protests erupted across Earth, with crowds demanding either immediate contact with the horizon or its complete isolation from the planet. Elena found herself at the center of the storm. As the person who had made first contact, she was called upon to advise world leaders, comfort frightened populations, and somehow make sense of the incomprehensible. She stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching Earth turn slowly below, when Colonel Park approached. The colonel looked tired, worn down by the weight of the implications. Director, my security teams are reporting increased incidents of spontaneous evolution. People who have had no direct contact with the horizon are beginning to show signs of transformation. It's spreading without any physical vector we can identify. Elena had expected this. Navigator Chen had warned them that the change once begun could not be stopped. It seemed proximity to evolved humans was enough to trigger the transformation in those who were ready. How many? Park consulted his tablet. Thousands confirmed, possibly tens of thousands more who haven't reported their symptoms. They all described the same thing: expanded awareness, the ability to perceive dimensions beyond the normal three, telepathic connections with others undergoing the change. A new voice joined their conversation, appearing in their minds rather than their ears. It was Navigator Chen, somehow projecting her thoughts across the vast distance from the horizon. Do not fear the transformation, Director Reeves. It is as natural as a child learning to walk. Humanity has always been destined for this. The architects have simply provided the catalyst, Elena responded, surprised to find she could project her thoughts back. Why now? Why was humanity chosen? She felt Chen's mental smile. Every species that develops consciousness eventually faces this choice. You have reached the level of technological and social development where you can understand and accept transformation. Your wars have decreased. Your global cooperation has increased, and your curiosity about the universe has never been stronger. You are ready, even if you don't feel it. The conversation was interrupted by urgent alerts. A new ship had appeared near the horizon, but this one was clearly not of human origin. It was crystalline in structure, seeming to exist partially in this dimension and partially in others. It shifted and changed as they watched, defying any attempt to determine its true shape or size. The entire solar system seemed to hold its breath as the crystalline ship broadcast a message that appeared simultaneously in every human mind on Earth and beyond. The message was not in words, but in pure understanding, concepts that transcended language. The architects had come. The being that appeared on every screen and in every mind was beautiful and terrible, ancient beyond measure, yet eternally young. It spoke without words, its meaning clear to all who heard it. Children of Earth, we are the architects of evolution. We have watched your species grow from primitive consciousness to the threshold of transcendence. The time of choosing has come. President Thompson, despite his fear, managed to respond from Earth's capital. What do you want from us? The architect's response rippled through reality itself. We want nothing from you. We offer everything to you. The ability to traverse the cosmos without ships, to communicate across infinite distances instantly, to understand the true nature of reality. Your people aboard the horizon have already taken this step. They thrive. They explore. They have become more than they ever dreamed possible. Dr. Kim, emboldened by her scientific curiosity, asked the crucial question. What is the cost? Evolution always has a price. What do we lose in this transformation? The architect's presence seemed to consider this carefully. You lose limitations. You lose the comfort of ignorance. You lose the ability to pretend you are alone in the universe, but you lose nothing of your essential humanity. Love remains. Creativity remains. Hope, dreams, ambition all remain. They simply expand beyond their current boundaries. Around the world, people were beginning to make their individual choices. Some embraced the change, opening their minds to the new possibilities. They found themselves connecting with others, sharing thoughts and experiences directly. Families separated by distance suddenly found themselves closer than ever, their consciousness touching across continents. Others resisted, clinging to traditional humanity, fearing the loss of individuality. They formed communities dedicated to remaining unchanged, though they found it increasingly difficult as more and more people around them evolved. Elena watched it all unfold from Luna Station. The transformation was not violent or forced. It was like watching humanity collectively learn a new language, one that had always existed but had never been spoken. Those who changed helped others understand. Those who resisted were not coerced but simply waited for their own readiness. Torres, who had been among the first to change, had become something of a guide for others. He stood before a group of frightened but curious people in New York, his presence calming and reassuring. The fear comes from not understanding. Once you feel the connection, once you realize you're not losing yourself but finding a greater self that includes all you were and more, the fear disappears. You're still you. You're just more. A young girl in the crowd raised her hand. Will I still be able to play with my dog? Will I still love my parents? Torres knelt down to her level, his evolved senses letting him project pure reassurance. You'll be able to understand your dog in ways you never could before. You'll feel its joy, its love for you. And your parents? The love between you will only grow stronger when you can share your hearts directly. Nothing good is lost. Only limitations disappear. As days turned to weeks, the percentage of humanity choosing evolution grew. Cities began to transform as evolved humans reshaped reality to better serve their needs. Buildings became fluid, adapting to their inhabitants. Transportation became unnecessary as people learned to fold space. Hunger and disease became obsolete as evolved humans learned to manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level. The horizon moved closer to Earth, no longer a threat, but a beacon. The 20 million souls aboard began to share their experiences, their journeys through dimensions humans had never imagined. They showed Earth the civilizations they had encountered, the wonders they had seen, the knowledge they had gained. Navigator Chen appeared one final time before the united leaders of Earth, though by now, the distinction between evolved and traditional humans was beginning to blur. The choice was always yours to make, but the outcome was inevitable. Evolution cannot be stopped, only delayed. Those who resist now will eventually join us when they're ready, when they understand that this is not an ending but a beginning. President Thompson, who had undergone the transformation himself, spoke for the new humanity. We understand now. The horizon didn't just return with secrets. It returned with our future. The galaxy awaits us, not as conquerors but as participants in a community of consciousness that spans the stars. The architects began to withdraw, their work complete. Their final message resonated through every human mind. You have taken your first steps into a larger universe. There are wonders ahead that your current minds cannot imagine, but you will grow into them. You will become what you are meant to be. The childhood of humanity is over. Your true journey begins now. As Earth transformed, as humanity evolved, the horizon finally docked with the planet's orbital stations. The reunion was not just of lost colonists with their descendants, but of two branches of humanity becoming one again. The secrets they had carried had indeed defied the galaxy, not through conquest or conflict, but through transcendence. The stars, which had once seemed so distant and cold, now called to humanity with a warmth and familiarity. They were no longer destinations to be reached through years of travel in metal ships. They were neighbors to be visited with a thought, friends to be made, wonders to be explored. Humanity had received the gift of transcendence, and with it the universe itself had become their home.